Hey everybody, I just this video is going to be a little bit different. I got hung up on a lot of stuff, and I talk about it in this next clip, so I was just throwing this in here to kind of piece together where I was and where we're going to be at. But I just wanted to talk more about making comic books and the beginning of this one coming up. So I figured this be a good video to kind of give it a break and go from there. I got a little bit of video footage to kind of fill in and talk about something until we get started on the actual next video. So here's my little introductory. We got rid of this red right here, so I talk about that though. So here we go. All right. So I'm gonna just say I am not happy with the cover. I I think it's kind of just too plain. Um, the background it's just all too plain. I know I'm gonna have to try to make it through this, um, regardless. But yeah, it's been wearing on me to the point where I'm like, what am I doing, you know? Because I like the characters. This was pretty cool to kind of get this going, and I'm happy with that. But um, if I could do it all over again, which I think I've said before, I would definitely do a completely different design. So I think going forward, I will have to make a slipcover for the actual product to be happy with it, because this is this and it is what it is. And uh, it's been kind of drawing my energy um, from wanting to work on it, which we got to get over. I just gotta snap and clear and just move on. I can come back to it multiple times. So this is the whole how to make a comic book thing, and I can't fail on on my own uh, process. So we're gonna shelf this for a little bit and work on the actual comics. So that's normally, if I'm having a lot of trouble, it's what I would do anyways. Um, you don't have to have anything final until you're ready to print or let it out into the world anyways. So there's no dead set schedule to be like you need to have the cover done and you need to have page one done before you have page two done, and you need to have page two done before you have page three done. It's stupid. As you see with this comic book, where we're actually gonna be, I'm gonna forcefully put myself in positions like that too while making the comic book to be like, all right, we're gonna start here, and then we're gonna keep going to where we want, and then in the middle or the end of the comic, we're gonna have some kind of breakthrough because it just because of the way I'm setting this up, and we're gonna be like, hey, you know what would be cool is if we take this thing that's revealed in the uh, second half, and we're gonna bring that back and kind of hint at it at the beginning. So we're gonna add scenes. So that's the beauty of it all. So it's pros and cons to having the work already done. I'm kind of taking the Todd McFarlane way of making comic books, which if you ever read, there's a book, uh, I forgot what the book was called, but it was something about, it was like 21 writers of comic books, and it's got your Brian K. Vaughan, your Garth Ennis, Alan Moore, um, Todd McFarlane, which we'll come back to in a second. I'm just naming off names that I remember for sure that were in there. Um, it's got a lot of writers giving advice on how to make these things, and I remember Todd distinctively saying, and he used to be like, "Oh, it might piss some people off," but what he was doing with the Spawn comics is they would just draw. So he'd be, "Hey, Greg, right? Because Greg was drawing the comic books. He's like, draw whatever you want, and then we'll write. Like they had a loose guideline. They're like, this happens, this can't happen, whatever. But they would draw cool pictures, and then they would just write the comic afterwards. Like, okay, this is what the comic's about, whatever, right? And then we're kind of gonna do that with this comic book. I'll get to that point here in a second, but I wanted to show some cool stuff. So um, here is where I originally got the idea for the name from. I found that while searching through a bunch of images that I had. So like I was saying, this this is from like 20 something, 2015 to 20, I don't know, somewhere around there. And you can see my art sucked. That was terrible. You know what's funny? Yeah, it looks like a complete rip off of I'm a huge Dave Raposa fan, and I think what happened is he had Skull and Shark, and for some reason that probably I'm dumb. I think I subconsciously stole it from him. This isn't going nowhere. This is not going anywhere, but I love the name, and I always wanted to make a story, kind of like a Lobo story where it's like bounty hunters, and you can see why it's a Lobo story. But that was essentially the plan. I thought that was cool that I found that, and I'm actually embarrassed to be looking at it right now, but I figured I'd share that. And that's our guys, the Lost Fuckers. I'm like I said, I'm combining those two stories, just the title, the bounty hunters, and then with with these characters from the we're about to go down a rabbit hole from the Dark Angel series that is on the back burner, which includes Old Man, which includes the Gray Man, which includes the God Project, and what am I missing? It's my magnum opus essentially of this world that I've always wanted to build since I was a little kid, and it started out as an alien story, but as you mature, you're like, okay, where's this going? And then as you really mature, you're like, religion, right? So it's like good versus evil from originally being aliens. But yeah, that's my evolution of it all. And then I got into mech stuff, and you can definitely tell the mech influence that I've loved, and that's where I was doing with Old Man is I wanted to have a comic book that had a I'll get to this in a little bit too. Uh, don't mind that yet. I wanted to talk about before we got into a lot of stuff. Okay, that works. I wanted to talk about how I'm gonna be setting up this comic book because now that we're gonna be into it, we're gonna talk some goals, some ideas, um, maybe some direction, some influence. That's another thing that I have. So let me write some of this stuff down. I like when I did that in the first video. It's good for me. So goals, influence, uh, ideas, structure, structure. Um, what else can we include there? This is, like I said before in one of those previous videos, this is me bouncing ideas off the wall. This is what I do in my enclosed shell of making a comic book. This is what I break down for myself, not always writing it out like this, but it's nice. I used to have a notebook, and I still got them too. I might take some off-grid video and import it in to show you some other things that I do before I ever do this stuff. Another one of them is sketches and demons, and I told you about that where some of those drawings we've done we'll recycle them and use them within the comic book. Um, so let's start out with the structure. My terminology and my knowledge is going to be off since it's been it's been over. It's got to be a decade over since I've been out of film school. Which I got to talk. I got to talk film too, because there's a couple things that have happened, good and bad, in the film world that I try to pay attention to. So that movie Obsessed that I talked about earlier, and how I was so proud to have been like one of the people that watched that guy's YouTube videos. The funny thing is, and I'm not shitting on that movie at all, at all. I love that that movie came out, and I definitely recommend people go see it because movies are just garbage these days. I'm sick and tired of Spielberg movies. I get mad when I see another Stephen King remake. I like crash out, like no joking, and my blood's starting to boil right now. I am sick and tired of copy and paste Spielberg, Lucas, Stephen King films. I can't stand them anymore. So you can see how strongly I feel about it, right? So that said, definitely go watch Obsession, right? Because we got as art lovers, if you're watching this, I'm assuming you love art in some way, right? Whether it's interior design, whether it's what culinary, anything. There's an appreciation for art. Storytelling is its own thing. That said, the Obsession movie, like I was convinced that that movie was going to just um what's the right word? Intimidate me, right? Because I want to be a story maker. I want to be a filmmaker, not a filmmaker. I want to be like a storyteller, right? And like whenever I see stuff like that, I'm like, and then the hype around it, I'm like, I was scared that I'm like, oh, this is gonna be something that like puts me in my place, and I'm never gonna reach that level of whatever. And then just watching it and kind of having fun and just feeling the emotion from it, I was like, okay, like it's that part of you when you watch a movie and you're like, oh, I would have done this. So I guess I'm being more of a critique, like a critic than anything. But that was my only drawback about that movie is I'm like I thought it was going to be this thing that was like I'm down here and that movie was way up here and that I could never reach that level of success, successful storytelling. Not success because that's determined I think by luck, right? There's a lot of amazing movies that will never reach like the success of that movie. It's just the way it is, right? There's nothing you can do about it. The world's unfair. And you move on. That said, I was kind of happy because I thought that movie was just going to make me feel like, what am I doing, right? But it's a good movie. That said, I saw Masters of the Universe, and I watched the cartoon and had all the toys because of my oldest brother. Was a huge fan of the cartoon. Like that was his show when he was a kid. So I got a bunch of hand-me-down stuff. So I watched it through him and had all the toys through him and my oldest sister. And so that's how I came into that world. I had always been a fan. Even Small World, the Dave Raposa guy. I met him in a Comic Con in New York years and years ago. And I actually bought all his He-Man stuff. So I got like Skeletor painting by Dave Raposa signed and all that stuff. And pretty cool stuff. Um, that movie was um, it's something else. There's a lot of things that I'm kind of taking from that movie. One of them is I think Jared Leto. I think Jared Leto is an amazing actor. I don't care what nobody says. Jared Leto is one of my favorite actors, and I think this is my personal opinion. I think Jared Leto is the new Michael Jackson, right? Because if you think about it, he tried to fight the music industry execs, I guess. I don't know what they're called, the producers, whatever. You know who? And they wanted like was it some ridiculous amount of money from him for the 30 seconds to Mars. They're gonna charge him 30 billion or something. And then all of a sudden, if you notice, every single movie he's in, before the movie's ever out, people were like, "Oh, Jared Leto's a weirdo. He's creepy. He's doing this." It's the same thing, not to the extent of like children and Michael Jackson, but it's the same exact feeling, I think. It's a personal opinion, to be honest, as as that whole thing. Because he's been in some amazing movies where like, or not amazing movies, but he's been in movies where like he did a good job. He did what he could do. And it's still like you got your instant critics that didn't even watch the movie. I remember when Morbius came out and people were like, I didn't watch the movie, but I hate it because, and it's like, no, you don't get to say that. It's I know I'm speaking off the top of my head. And I don't know how true it is, but I'm pretty sure I remember Disney hiring critics to bash DC films. You remember when Batman versus Superman came out? People were trashing it like, "Oh, this movie's." They were like self uh depreciate. There's no depreciating or self what's it called? Self doing some self degradation to themselves where they're like, "I'm not smart enough for that movie, so I don't want to see it," right? Or Batman's too. He's not supposed to kill people and like all this stuff. And then then you got the DC cartoons where they're cussing and all this like super violent and whatever. And but they're like, I can't fathom an angry Batman. I can't fathom how serious this movie is. And you remember like for a fact, Marvel, Disney was hiring people to talk shit about other media. So it's this weird world we live in where they want to control. I'm getting weird, huh? I gotta cut this out. All right, forget all that. Jared Leto was the best part of that movie. To be honest, I know Small World. There's a artist that did one of my favorite artists. It's a British dude named Fraser Irving. Amazing art. He's on one of the sides of political whatever. I don't care. I like his art, and so a lot of people hate him, but I like his art. I don't care about his politics. I don't care if he cares about my politics. That's not what, you know what I mean? Get rid of all that. It's useless. I like his art. He did a Skeletor comic book. If you ever get the chance, it's really cool. And I'm wondering, I don't know if I ever picked it up. I got a massive stack of comic books. I got Oh man, I got thousands of comic books still in California from when I moved that my buddy has. I have the whole Why the Last Man series, the all of Garth Ennis' stuff, all the Alan Moore stuff, just tons of stuff. And I'm pretty sure I have Fraser Irving's Skeletor comic. I think it's Masters of the Universe is probably the title, and it's just Skeletor comic book, like his origin. So now that I've seen Masters of the Universe and kind of um, where's my train of thought going? Now that I've seen it. And Skeletor is the best part of the movie. It's like I want more of a Skeletor, right? Like you want to know more about him. You don't like what are you going to show with He-Man and the rest of them? Like they're Power Rangers essentially at that point. Like what's going to be new and different? Nothing, right? It's all going to be the same movie now on, I'm guessing, unless they have like a writer's room where they come up, whatever. But that's where you go next is you go, okay, this was successful because at first, Friday night, I was planning on seeing the movie Saturday, but I remember Friday night, or no, it was Saturday morning, they were already calling it a flop, which, what, right? Opening weekend, it's Saturday morning, and you're calling this movie a flop. So I'm so, I don't want to say proud because I'm in no position to say I'm proud of Jared Leto, but I'm so happy for him. You know what I mean? Because every movie that he touches has a stink of something on it, right? Or people like he cannot catch a break. And like I'm not defending the guy. If the guy's wrong, the guy's wrong for some of the accusations, but you're also innocent till proven guilty on anything, right? So because we're going down a whole different path. I gotta let that go. But that was movie stuff. I went to go see Into the Gray, which is a Guy Ritchie film, and that's one of my favorite. You know what? That's why I did this whole thing is so that I could talk this stuff while kind of having something to show. So I was supposed to be drawing while I just like talked garbage this whole time. So sorry about that. Um, this is actually a picture of my old art teacher that turned into a monster. So sorry, buddy. But I got no direction for it too. 'Cause now I want to like talk movies and whatever. But so I went to go see Into the Gray, which again, Guy Ritchie film. I love Guy Ritchie and then his I love his movies. And another, like small world thing with it. People were talking about, well, my brother and my other friends that we talk movies. They're talking about Masters of the Universe kind of stealing from Thor, right? Like the way things are, and I'm like, yeah, you could see it as like they took ideas from Thor, the Disney version of Thor of his power, and and now like in my head, I'm like, they also took Guy Ritchie's film, uh, the King Arthur one. They pretty much stole like the way he uses his sword from the Guy Ritchie films, where it's like it's not as good because it's Guy Ritchie, right? But um, you can tell they definitely pulled some influence from it. Because I was watching and I was like, yeah, I know what you're doing. You know what I mean? So I was like, I don't even blame you. Like, is it if you haven't seen King Arthur, which honestly that movie, um, even though I'm nostalgically a He-Man guy, that King Arthur movie was just so good, and it's never it probably doesn't. I don't know how good it did. I don't think it did good at all, but it's not going to get the recognition that He-Man's getting right now, or Masters of the Universe is getting, even though, yeah, I think it's a better film for sure. Okay, want to make sure I got all that stuff. Okay, so Guy Ritchie movie, Into the Gray, Jake Gyllenhaal, and Henry Cavill, Superman guy. Um, it's a war movie, which Jake Gyllenhaal's another guy I think is one of my favorite actors. Cavill's an amazing actor. So I was like, I'm definitely watching this movie, you know? Like it's gonna happen. That was actually the movie I wanted to see the most out of all of them, to be honest. And I went to go see it finally, and they had already pulled it out of theaters. And I was like, damn, that sucks. Yeah, we're gonna work on this a little bit, and honestly, because I have a plan for what I want to talk about with this character in particular. We're gonna recycle this into part of the comic somewhere, and I want to show you the look of the comic book I kind of want to tackle. So we're gonna get back to notes, and I want to talk a little bit about the structure of a film, and I'm gonna just do a stupid little design that I vaguely remember. I'm never gonna be a filmmaker, even though I would want to be in some way. I don't want to write scripts, to be honest. I went into film school wanting to be a director, but like I just want to tell stories. So like script writing is the job for me, I think. Editing was fun. Everybody loved editing. Sound design, I failed that class, but hear me out. Let me get rid of that. I messed up. Hear me out. Sound design, right? I respect it so much that I know in my heart I will never be a sound guy because you know why? I will hire if I was ever to make a movie. Like this is what I was like I was too much of a coward to tell my teacher because I was a younger man, right? This teacher she worked on like the South Park movie, a bunch of other stuff, but she pulled me aside and was like literally cussing me out like you piece of shit, and she was like calling me garbage, and she's like you don't even care, and blah blah blah, and I was like listen, this is what I said in my head. I didn't say anything to her, but but in my head and to this day, because it haunts me that I didn't get to tell her this. You know what I mean? Because she was a industry working professional, and I was just a stupid kid. But in my head, um, it means so much to me that I know I can't do it. My heart's not in it. Um, but that doesn't mean I'm like Spielberg. This is where I'm gonna boil my blood every time I say this guy's name. And I'm talking new Spielberg. I'm talking like Alien Spielberg, like that guy after I don't know. I don't know what his last good movie was. Like I don't know if he did Tintin. I like Tintin. I think he did Tintin. That was probably his last good movie, I think. Screw the rest of his work, to be honest. I know that might piss people off, but I really don't care. But Spielberg once said, um, the script doesn't matter. And like, let that sink in. And this might be where my disdain for him came in originally. He thinks that just being a director, you can salvage any script and make it good, right? And that the script doesn't matter. It could be the best script in the world, but if you're a terrible director, which it makes sense to a certain extent, like you can ruin a movie. If you ever watch No Country for Old Men and then read the book, all they did was be successful at transferring what's in the book into the movie. Like there's nothing different. It's just a really accurate, really, I don't know what I'm drawing. I'm just BSing right now. Really accurate portrayal of the book. And that's why it's so good, right? Because they're able to capture it. And so you get his point of saying, okay, well you can have the best script, but I think the opposite is true too, because and I'll give one example that I know was I hated the movie with a passion to this day. I hate the movie, but is Hugo by Scorsese. Like I hate that movie. I can't stand it. I will fight somebody if they put it on. And they're like, you know what I mean? Like I cannot stand that damn movie. Um, but his point is, oh, you could be a good director and make a good film off a crappy script. That's not true. Hugo sucks, right? There's a lot of movies that suck that they'll tell you is good. That's why you got all your critics are like, this movie is amazing. You just don't understand this. Like, no, shut up. That movie sucks. You're gonna tell me what I like, and you know what I mean? There's a lot of bad movies that are actually good that they tell you sucks. And I'm not gonna name names because I get in fights about those all the time too. Because I'm like, it's a good movie. I don't care what nobody says, right? But because some critic gave it a score, or whatever, it's like, shut up. Were you entertained? You're gonna watch this movie that's made for kids essentially and pretend it's an adult movie, just so you could be like, oh, there's an art to it. I really like the artistic taste in this children's movie. Shut up, right? This is a dark recording. I don't even know where I'm at talking wise. I'm just complaining at this point. All right, so script. Um, there's a formula to writing movie scripts, and oh no, we're still talking about the sound, so I'll get off that topic real quick. The sound teacher was telling me she called me a piece of crap, and I didn't respect the sound class. And it's like no, and this is why it haunts me because I never got to like give her closure or what I actually felt about it. It's that I respect it so much that I'm not going to muddy it down with my inability to give it everything I got, right? I will give a script, I will give whatever I'm working on, like drawing wise, everything I got, but I can't do that with sound. There's just in my heart, I can't do it, right? Like you don't want to fake it and then like turn out something that you don't believe in. And it's not saying like, oh, I'm gonna turn out this thing that I just don't like, I wouldn't do that. I would hire somebody that I trusted, that I knew was gonna do a good job. And that is not the career path for me. There's no way I was gonna be a sound guy. You know what I mean? Like you're not gonna beat it into me to where like I guess I'll take a sound production job. No, it was not gonna happen. There's people that love that job way too much for me to disrespect the medium that way. And that's what I gotta say about that. Okay, I got that off my chest. I think you guys are the first people to ever hear that part of me. All right, script writing. There's usually like a little graph you can do. Yeah, that's your initial hook, right? When you start a movie. Think of this as a timeline. What's it go? It goes down like that, and then it goes escalates, right? And then you got your uh, inciting. inciting incidents right here, or something like that. Forget the terminology, so bear with me. I do all this stuff in my head and in my book, so. And then you got your this, and then you either got your resolution, you know what I mean? You can either have it escalate, you can have it just pan off, or you can uh, kind of just, or you can just leave it for the audience to decide, right? Like that's why you get all your one things. There's a point of no return, but here's your hook. So we'll start with the hook because that's where we're gonna start the comic book off of. So there's different types of stories. You've seen them, Spider-Man, Batman, where they always start like you gotta find out how Uncle Ben died. You gotta see Batman's parents die. You know what I mean? Like you need some kind of backstory. I hate that stuff. I like starting the story when something happens, right? Like even the guy from Obsession, I was watching this interview and he's like, people aren't stupid, you know? Like you'd be surprised at what people pick up in movies that you kind of just hint at and you forgot that you hinted at it and they were able to like really take it and run with it and like even in their own direction that like maybe even enhance your story without you even like kind of planning on it. So you don't have to treat people like they're stupid. So every story I do, I like starting in the point of action, like something's happening. We're dropped into the film like Tom Cruise in a robot suit, right? Boom. There we go. Something's happening. You want to hook your audience. You want to kind of, I already wrote that. And then that can pan off. Then you have a drop down, so you kind of let people breathe. You know, like here's where the story's going to go. Then you have your, I think that's called your inciting incident, something that essentially kicks off the film. And it could be like that. I don't know why it goes down. And then there's a point of no return too. I think that's where that is, and where the film essentially just that's the direction it goes. And then you're gonna have your I forget what this is a major plot point. And I'm forgetting. I should have probably done my little research on the terminology to be honest. Um, and then that's where the character has to make a decision to get to the resolution. That's essentially I forget. Dang it. I'm screwing this up because I really wanted to emphasize the structure, but this is a something loose I just wanted to show and kind of show you my building blocks of basic storytelling. So then with the hook, because that's what because I'm gonna find out that terminology, and then as we go through the comic book, I'll revisit it and be like, oh yeah, this was that thing I was talking about, right? But for the hook and my style of comic, this is gonna have deal with structure, my goals, ideas. The way I like to start comic books, like I said, just jumping into the action, like something happens, like boom, you're in this world. Here's what's going on. Plus pages. So imagine you have a comic book in your hands right now, right? You got your back cover, you got your cover. When you open it up, the inside of the cover, right? So now it's here, inside cover, and then your page one. I hate leaving that blank. So what I usually try to do for like comic book setup is I'll usually have this one's like this, and then we have our guy right here. Now we're gonna change all this or we're gonna make it work somehow, that cover. And I'm gonna fill in that backside with black too, so it looks like you can fold open the entire comic and there's just one image instead of just, backside of the cover. I like to do that with the inside cover and page one. So um, here's your real page one, but this is also you can use it as a page. And what I like doing there, and I gotta really maintain my train of thought here because I'll go off on tangents. Um, I like establishing a mood, and I learned that. Here's a pro tip from watching directors' commentaries for movies, and one of my favorites was from Capote, the movie with Philip Seymour Hoffman, and I think the director was Sam Mendes. I could be wrong. I'm probably wrong, but off the top of my head, that's what's popping in my head. But that's the cool thing about DVDs back in my day, right? Is you could put in a DVD, go to special features, and actually watch. They used to do this a lot. Like another one that will bring people's attention is like Tropic Thunder has a really good one with Ben Stiller. Ben Stiller. Yeah, it is Ben Stiller. But I'm thinking of Robert Downey Jr. And he says he doesn't break character until the end of what's it called? The end of direct or like the special features, whatever. So he does that all in the character. So if you haven't seen it, you're missing out. But as the character from the movie, he's like still portraying the role through the director's cut, which is it's just amazing. Um, I used to watch these things all the time. I really was a film school student, so I uh I used to go watch movies for the hell of it, and I would try to learn something from them as I'm watching them. And then I would buy the movies and I would try to dissect them and I would, whatever. But that's it's a Japanese thing too with this style of storytelling. You'll have in this comic book what we're getting at for atmosphere, and I'll get back to the movie part, is there's different ways to show it, and one of the Japanese ones is that I really liked is they'll just have a bunch of random pictures, and you see it in my Old Man issue 1 comic book, is you'll have rain, and then you'll have like a puddle, and then you'll have like stuff that doesn't like it's in the same world, but it doesn't really, it's not the story. It's just like, here's the mood. There's like a bird hiding somewhere in the rain, and then there's a house over here that's wet or whatever. And it's just to be like, here we are, you know. And so what I was getting at with that movie and the director's cut is where I initially learned it from was the Capote behind the scenes director's cut, and they're talking about like you're about to watch this super violent, horrifying story. It's based on a true story, in cold blood, and um, the credits I feel like ruin movies. The beginning credits, and I'll stand by that till the end of time. But we live in an age where it's like, look at me constantly, you know. And I think the beginning credits is a waste of time. I get that people want to be proud of their work but it's like a circle jerk, I think. You know what I mean? Like I didn't come to the movie to like, and this is all personal opinion, you could tell me to screw off or whatever. If you're really into that stuff, like title sequence, I guess it could work because you're like, okay, I want to show a title and I want to have a creative way of showing it. And then you could set up a title, but that's part of the storytelling. Like seeing people's names before the movie just always bothers me, and it's just a personal critique because it's like I get it that it's the structure of the movie, but it has nothing to do with the story. You know what I mean? Unless it's like an autobiography or some documentary or something, it has nothing to do with the story. Get into the story, right? I don't want to see a bunch of people's names directed by this guy and then, oh yeah, Batman's parents die, right? It's just, I don't know, it's my personal preference. It just always bothered me. So, the Capote scene, when they open up, and this is how we're gonna find a way to do something like this, is what I'm getting at in this comic book. But why we're talking about this is it's just a creative way I feel like you can add to your comic book and talk about things. All right. Um, you're about to watch a super violent movie, and then you need the tone. It's a violent subject. No, is it Clint Eastwood? I'm asking my dog like he knows. It's not a Clint Eastwood movie, I don't think. No, he did Changeling. I think the hanging scenes are like it's just they're like melting together in my head, and I'm thinking Clint Eastwood for some reason. But I gotta check that out. No, it's no big no. I know it's not Clint Eastwood too. I just talked about the making of the director commentary, and so I know it's not Clint Eastwood, but I still want to give it the credit because it was a big part of the way I do things. Probably, I'm looking it up right now. Director. Ooh, so it's directed by Bennett Miller. So I was off on the Sam Mendes, but really good director commentary if you ever get the chance, or if you want to like just pick up tips and tricks on a lot of stuff. And so they needed to establish the atmosphere of the movie because, like I was saying, with all the credits and the blah blah blah, and people getting into the theater and they're restless and they're like, we need people to sit down and like breathe and be like, okay, here we are. You know what I mean? And so that's why they open up the movie and it's like this quiet scene and it's just it hushes you. And so I always just adore that moment of a story of like of essentially telling people to like relax, you know what I mean? Like just like pretend you're here. And so that's how I always want to start, especially with this inside cover and it's page one. That's how I always want to start my story, unless otherwise, like I have some other idea that warrants, like to be honest, I'm probably backtracking here because this story is going to be like a gasoline fire type of story. So technically, we should have just gone wild from the get-go. But with what I've come up with for the first few pages, I think this is the best bet. So what we want to do is create like maybe like a landscape, you know what I mean? And then like you're gonna have your house or whatever we're gonna do. And it's just this quiet scene of when people open the book and they just have something to look at, like a landscape painting. And it just holds you there for a second, like so it gets people to be like, why am I here? You know? And that's kind of just where I want to go with that. So it gets rid of that inside cover and the awful page one, because page one is like one of the most important parts of a comic book because people are gonna open it. They're going to see the difference in art style if you have a different, cover artist. Because a lot of comic books these days they'll hire like an amazing artist and then have like a line artist do the interiors. I never like that either. Like I want my work consistent, but I also get it too because doing highly rendered art is it's a pain, as you'll come to see in this video or this series. It's a lot of work, but it's like how bad do you want it? Like if you had something that had like this amazing painters, every work inside the like Meta Baron. You ever read Meta Baron with I forget who the artist is, which is a tragedy. But Meta Baron is like this amazing, like every page is so good. Like all the covers, and then like versus like what kept me from reading Preacher for the longest is the covers by Glenn Fabry. Fabry's one of my favorite artists for covers. He's made my favorite covers to date, which is what we should have done with this cover. We'll do it on the next series. But he had such good covers that I opened the book and then I saw it's a Steve Dillon artwork, which is just it's not bad. It's just simple line work, and it threw me off so much that I never gave that comic book a chance until like I got a little bit more mature, and then was like, well, I care more about story than the art at this point in my life. So then I went back and I like fully appreciated what it was. Why the Last Man is the same thing. Um, Massimo Carnival, I think, is the cover guy's uh, name from Why the Last Man, and then the artist, I'm not, is it Pia? Uh, Pia something, I think, was Why the Last Man's interior artist, which is the same thing like Preacher, is like this simple line art. And it has its place in the comic book stuff, right? Whereas ours, I say ours, yeah, it's ours, right? Because you're here with me. Our comic book's gonna be painterly, it's gonna be rendered, and Um, that's how I want it, right? So we're gonna have this quiet scene, whatever we choose. And I think I have an idea of where I want to go with this, right? All right, so got that. So let's recap. cover, back cover, inside cover, page one. So we got this scene, right? What I want to do with this comic book is I've done it with the Old Man comic book where in Old Man I had another page and then I'd show something and then another page and I'd have the entire, that's where like a movie, I would have the entire title. Like here's the title, here's the setup, we're in the story, boom, right? I always thought that was pretty cool. And I kind of want to do something a little bit along those lines just because it's something I've been exploring. So we're gonna have just like, hey, this is to mellow us out. Like, hey, we're reading the story now. That's the introduction, but we're gonna carry it over. So we're gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's gonna go in. We're gonna be talking. We're gonna be talking structure a little bit here too. What I want to do is have, I think four, because this is something I want to been because of this story in particular. I wanted it to have like this bombshell of action. So I wanted to open up, even though the beginning is not like boom, like you're in a fight, because that's technically where it should be, but um, we're not going to open like that. We're going to open like slow, and we're just going to get this train of thought going in this comic book. So we got a landscape here, and then each page, because you can consider this one page, but this is like a throwaway page because when you open a comic book, especially if it's printed, it's just not going to look right. You know what I mean? Because it's going to have like this see-through almost because the cover is a different paper than the interior page. So that's just to kind of be like, okay. And then this is like the here we go. And the way I want to structure this comic book is in 4 to 8 page increments, right? My buddy once told me about writing stories. He's like, you want to have something kind of like eventful happen every 4 to 8 pages. So like as you're reading and you're turning 1, 2, 3, 4, like something's happening, payoff at that fourth page, or then it can go to 6 or 8, 6 to 8 pages. And you want to have beats like that, right? And this is just stuff that I've picked up from my friends. So that's how I try to work. I try to have something eventful happen within that page range. I aim for 4, but as you notice when you're making comic books, stuff just happens and then you find cool ways to be like, oh yeah, well, if I did this and then this page, you're working this way, so when you turn it leads into this and that's this, and I'm here and I'm already at 4 pages and like I need, you know what I mean, like this was supposed to be the payoff, but now I need to turn the page and now the payoff's like, here, but I need to stretch it to be over here because the way you're turning the page, you don't want them to turn the page and then boom and be here unless there's a reason for it, and then still have this empty page where a new beat has to happen, right? So that's where we're at. It's a lot more. So I'm making it sound more complicated than it is. So we're just talking events. So what I want to do in this comic book and what I've thought about is having kind of like a quiet moment before all the action. And that will actually give me a chance to talk about influence. So as you notice, or you probably didn't notice because I'm just me, is I haven't been posting like I was when I first started, because when I first started, I had all this energy and I was making 3 videos a week and I was kind of burning myself out in a way. Not that I was burning myself out, but what was happening is it was getting real. And I didn't give it the due diligence like I've been preaching I would. Um, this comic book is almost like a fly by the edge of your seat type of way of making a comic book, because it's just like, hey, forget all the forget all the technical, was it? Forget all the technical stuff. Let's just make a comic book and get through it. That's what this is really about. So the problem with that is every time you do it, you start to really care about stuff. And what happened to me is not that didn't want to care about it, but I started to be like, no, I want to do this, and then like this isn't good enough. So my ego was getting in on it to where I was thinking, well, my dog might start barking. I don't want to. I usually cut and then just start another video if he starts barking. All right, no, I think we're good. But I started to care a little bit too much about my effort. Like I felt like I wasn't giving it. Like I said with the cover. Like now I'm like, oh, like I could do this better. That's where I'm at now. Is like I'm like I should have done this better, and I understand I did this for a reason. That these characters were like the recycled sketch that I had already done. So, and then I was talking about with the nostalgia of it already being done and kind of like retrieving it and being like, hey, let's make this comic book about these characters, so let's go, you know. But in reality, like part of me is like, no, what I should have done is really come up with an idea for the story, know what's going to happen, other than right now I know they're going to be fighting monsters, right? And then coming up with a narrative piece that these characters are in some sort of sequence dealing with some kind of problem. And that's what's been bothering me. And it's kind of been holding me back, but um, I wanted to talk influence. So when I start making comic books, I think I've said it before, I go through a lot of uh, reference and like things I want this story to look like. And right now, I I pulled up a couple old movies and kind of looks that I want to do, and I was talking with a friend about it too. But I was thinking, what if this story, and this is the main one, I'm gonna directly use Apocalypse Now as the color palette for this comic book, and I'm also gonna use a lot of 80s style horror, like or just film sets and like that kind of look in this story because I think it'd be really, really cool to kind of like sell the image. Like I love the set designs and I want this like colossal feeling of storytelling within this comic book. So I really like uh I really like 80s movies just because of the way it's just I like the atmosphere. It's just a bunch of images that I saved from Apocalypse Now. Get out of here, Adobe. And a bunch of horror movies. And we're gonna do some studies, and I want that grainy 35 millimeter look, that fog machine in the production set kind of look of storytelling, the crushed colors and saturation. So this is what I wanted to show for me picking out this. I just like the scene in the background. Uh, I just thought it was really, really rich. Apocalypse Now, I'm just going to be taking, and then I also found a bunch of movies that I need to go back and watch too, so I was throwing them in there as I was going. I think what it is, it's going to be grainy, so it's going to need some blues. It almost glows, doesn't it? And just the gore, and like making things almost look like it's physically there. You can kind of tell, like with all these images, like how I kind of want this comic book to look at this point, right? And there's a lot of filters we can use. Blast from the past if you're into this sort of stuff. I just like looking at this stuff too to kind of like get my juices going. I have this image saved somewhere else too. I've had this image for a long time. I think that's it. Yeah. But I just wanted to show some of the influence I was kind of looking at for this comic book. Um, and then from there, I was thinking we can we can jump into this and essentially play around with this image and make it kind of what we're looking for, right? I want to get some of that. I want a deep, deep color. Really show that this is. I'm doing a lot of studies lately on separating depth. I use some deep, deep colors to like that's not even as deep as I want. I want to go deeper. I think what would be cool too is there's a lot of filters on like Instagram. And I was thinking what would be like kind of creative is if I do these panels and then I can either just mess around with them and figure it out on Photoshop, which is probably what I'm going to end up doing. But I could go on Instagram, upload the panels, and then use their filters because I know they have like a retro one, and that's ultimately what we're going for is a retro look. So one way or another, we're gonna render. This might not be this video because I kind of got what I wanted to out of this video. Plus, I have to merge it with another video I started while I was working on the comic book. But I think on the next video, we're gonna actually render this, and this can be like uh, one of the monsters in the comic book uh, that will recycle and use in one of the pages, right? We'll have this thing like stumbling out of a kitchen or something. Okay, so what I wanted to do here is I don't know if I used to have this brush I called Smoke. Is that it? I want a cool color. No, right there. I'm just kind of playing around. This is just a little bit of a study, so bear with me a little bit. We're gonna put this on multiply. I'm gonna lower it a little bit. Then we're gonna come back. We're gonna add a little bit darker blue. I'm gonna get the paintbrush. I'm gonna fill this in. I'm gonna go to filter, uh, noise, add noise. Let's just keep it there for a second. We're gonna go multiply. We're gonna lower that down. So then from there, we'll go back in, grab our paintbrush back, and grab some of these colors. You put the highlights back in there. This is where we would come up with our lighting scheme. Right now, it's just kind of showing how we're gonna try to make this work. We want that kind of glowing look, like the horror movie. Yeah, this would be a cool little study we can do on the next video. That's what I plan. We'll try to make it look like one of those horror movies. If we can do that, then we're golden. Then we can continue with the comic book. Just a little basic lighting just to kind of throw it in there. All right, I'm gonna probably cut it there and kind of come up with an idea for my next video. So I hope this video is more of a kind of what I'm thinking and where I'm going with this comic book as is right now. So I hope you got something out of it, and I'll see you on the next one.